People always ask me, what do you see in people that makes them a peak performer? The difference between a peak performer and everyone else is that the peak find in what are they born for? What's my purpose? What am I called to do? They don't just find a job. They don't look for careers. They look for a purpose. There's nobody who embodies finding a purpose more than Brandy Vega. What you don't know about Brandy is that every fiber of her being is born to serve others. And as a result of it, people come in connection with her, and then they peak. Brandy, thank you for coming in and spending some time with me.
Thank you, James. Wow. You make everybody feel good like that, don't you?
No. I can tell you this, that I find great joy in discovering people who make other people better, because that's what we're here for. You are one of those people that after we interact, people remember how you made them feel, and that's a difference maker. At the end of my life, and they ask me, like, what are some highlights? I know that I won't go through and say I saw a concert, I heard a song. What I would talk about is the people I met that made a difference, and you're one of those people. That's why you're here today.
Well, thank you. I feel the same way about you. James is one of those people. You're one of those people that when people meet you, they just automatically feel seen and heard and validated and important. You make everybody feel that way. You're like the parent who every child thinks they're the favorite, even though I know I am. Mom.
Listen, I love that. I wanted to start with something.
Yeah.
You know, people see you. You're polished. You're attractive. You've been a winner. You are a winner. People would look at you and think that you haven't had to go through anything to be there. There's this word that goes in our culture that people live with pretty privilege, or they live with privilege. You have lived a life. You've been blessed. But to get to where you are, you had to go through something.
Yeah, you go through the refiner's fire. I mean, it's one of those things where I wasn't born into privilege. I was born to teen parents, parents who struggled. I started working at 5 years old selling rocks so we could get food. Wow. I got a job at 12 and lied so that I could afford braces because my teeth were messed up and I was so ashamed to talk or smile at anybody. I know what it's like to be cold and hungry and embarrassed and ashamed. And my mom loved me, and she's a fantastic mom. And she worked 3 minimum wage jobs most of the time just trying to support us. And so she taught me the power of hard work and dedication and fighting and never giving up. And we weren't on assistance. We probably should have been, but she was just so proud, working the best she could to raise us. And she taught us values that, I graduated early to join the Army so that I could get an education. I knew I couldn't get college without it. I knew what I wanted to do. I was a broadcast journalist and public affairs specialist, but nothing was ever handed to me. And I think that that's why I appreciate things so much, because I know the value of it. And it's shaped who I am in my life, that when you know, you notice. When you know what it feels like to be here, you see the people there. And then for me, because I finally got to a point where I feel like I reached a certain level of success. One of my favorite songs is "Because I Have Been Given Much, I Too Must Give." And that's how I look at it. I feel so thankful for everything I have. My life, I attempted suicide. I almost lost a child to suicide. So for me, I noticed the moments. I volunteered at the hospital for 7 years doing Nobody Dies Alone and spiritual care. And the things that you notice there are, I sat with multimillionaires and I sat with people experiencing homelessness. Death doesn't discriminate.
No.
And life is fleeting. We only have the moments we have and the people we have. So what are you doing to enjoy every moment and to make a difference and to be there and just be present? And I try to do that.
You said something like the being present thing. When you started off, you mentioned you were from 5 to 12 to graduating early. You started off with such mission. You paused for a moment and mentioned the fact that even though you were accomplished, even though you were driven, even though you had hard work, when you mentioned that suicide crossed your mind, what circumstances arose to take away the confidence of what you were building? Because you had become an overcomer already. You had already done some things that other than. But even though you have some victories, that things you have done, all of us can be vulnerable. All of us are vulnerable.
Yeah.
What things were going on at that moment that made you say, I don't know?
Yeah. I mean, I was a kid. I was a youth. And I just remember there was a rumor about me at school. And I felt like
your whole world was being destroyed.
and I just felt like I didn't matter. I felt like nobody cared. I literally, I remember writing a poem, and it was like, would they be sad? Would they care if I was buried, if I was 6 feet under? And it was just kind of talking about this, because I think that sometimes none of us feel important.
Yeah.
We feel like we're a burden. I don't know. And I was just going through some stuff, and I remember struggling at home and with the family, and then it was the school stuff that kind of sent me over the edge. And
I think there's something to that. Sometimes people can look on the outside and it looks like everything would be great. Attractive, you're young, you got all these things, but they don't know what can be feel like the last straw for anyone.
oh yeah,
And as a result of that, there's things that were born out of you from that. But I want to pause for a moment. For that age, with what you know now, if you could sit across from that younger version of you that thought that, what words would you say to that version of you?
it's interesting because last night I got to go serve at Red Barn Academy, which I love, with 60 to 70 people who have fought the hardest struggles and are trying to come out on top. And we wrote letters of hope and of help and healing and things you would say. And it was so powerful because we look at that now and we think, God, you're more powerful than you know. You're stronger than you know. People need you. They need your light. They need your influence. It will get better. There's hope. The sun always comes out tomorrow. And sometimes, like for me, once especially, I was reporting for Fox News when I was 20 years old.
Wow.
I was the youngest reporter they had ever had. I got to interview the president of the United States. I was on the White House press pool. I was a trained killing machine in the military, like doing fun stuff and reporting for Fox. And I had some really cool things going on. And then I became a mother. And I just look at that and I think, God, I would have missed out on all of this. I just can't imagine missing out on the way I felt last night, the way I felt when I adopted my son, the way I felt when I watched my daughter graduate, and just all these milestones. So if anybody's out there struggling, you need to know it will get better. It will. Whatever you're going through, you're not alone. Even if you feel alone, there's hope. There's people who love you.
That's right. There's a word for you. I want to say that if you feel like you're alone and isolated, you're not alone. And those valleys of life, when you're low and you feel like you're alone, I want you to know that you're not. It will pass. There are people who are coming. If your backfield feels empty, that no one has your back, no one's there for me, nobody cares, understand that sometime God will empty out the crowd you had to introduce you to a crowd that needs you.
Yeah.
There are times we go ups, we have downs, but not only do you matter, but everything that you have to offer matters. I was sitting here thinking, one of the things that you have been known for now is this promise. That life is about a promise. Life is about making a promise.
Right.
And the promise that you live by, it began because of something that happened with you. You have done so much. You've interviewed presidents. You're the youngest. You made milestones. You broke a generational curse of poverty. You broke through this thing. Something that started when you were 5, you were driven, you got there, you have a child, you're doing the right thing, you're raising your child, and the baby that you have developed, you have built, you get a phone call about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tell me what that call was like and what took place.
So when my child was 12, I was actually covering the NFL draft. And it was a fun morning, and I was all excited about it. And then all of a sudden I look at my phone and I see I have 20 missed calls and texts. I was like, what? What is going on? We go live. We're live, and I'm in production. And I'm kind of freaking out, and I listen to a message that says, your child's on her way to the ER. We don't know what's going on. And I was in Provo, and I had to drive like 45 minutes, and I drove like a machine through a snowstorm trying to get to my baby, not knowing what was going on. And we discovered that she had tried to end her life. And thankfully, somebody was there. And we went through this process, but I was a single parent. It was like a dirty, dark secret we didn't want to talk about. It was so painful, James. Like pain, like you don't even know. And then I have people reaching out saying, what's going on with your daughter? And I'm so ashamed. The stigma was so strong. And I'm thinking, my kid hates her life, and me, I must be the most horrible person on the planet that she would rather be dead. And what have I done? Like, did everything did I do it wrong? Did it matter? Did I focus on the right things? Like, you just question your worth. But it was a dirty secret. She didn't want to talk about it. I was so ashamed we didn't talk about it. She said it wouldn't happen again. She didn't really want help. She's 12. 2 years later, I get police banging on my door in the middle of the night. You got to check on your kid. Oh no, I'm thinking, did she do something wrong? Thankfully, her friend had the courage to call 911, and we found her in time. She had tried to end her life again. And we wound up at Primary Children's Hospital. We get there. They don't even have a bed for her because they had so many children, 8 to 18, trying to kill themselves at this point in time. And I was crying in the room like, how in the world did this happen again? And the doctors and nurses were with me, and they were crying too. They said, we've had so many. We don't know what's going on. We didn't know for almost 2 days if she was going to come out of it, and if she did, if she'd have permanent disability. And I told you I'd volunteered at the hospital. I had sat with everyone else, but when you're looking at your baby laying there and you're like, that's my baby. That's my kid. God, I'll do anything. What do you need me to do? And I remember just praying, saying, save her. I'll do absolutely anything you want. And we wait and we wait. And it was the next day, I had a breakdown in my car. I was sitting in my car, and I just thought, I spent the whole day looking for resources, and where do I go, and what do I do, and who do I talk to, and who do I trust, all these things, and I couldn't find it. And I recorded a video on my social media in my car, and I just said, I don't know if she's going to make it, and if she does, I need help. That video went viral. 12,000 views overnight, hundreds of messages from people in my circle, the well-respected people that I never would have thought in a million years was going through similar things. Wow. Like they lost a parent, a spouse, a child. They're all going through it, and they're reaching out to me. And then my friends at NBC who follow me said, hey, we saw your story. Will you share it on the news? I was like, absolutely not. Are you kidding me? Share the worst day of my life? My pain? No. I told them no. And I went back in the hospital the next day, and we're still waiting for word to see, is she going to pull out of it? Right. And I'm praying again, pleading. And I got the strongest message, James. Whatever you want to call it, whatever you believe, here's what I was told in my heart. Brandy, I will give you a second chance. There will not be a third. What will you do? And I was like, I'll do anything you want me to do. I have a nonprofit. I have a studio. I've got connections, whatever needs to be done. Shortly after, my baby opened her eyes. Wow. And she talked to me. And I said, baby, are you glad you're alive? Or do you really wish you would have died this time? And she said, Mom, I didn't really want to die. It was too late. And people don't want to die, James. They just want to kill the pain. They want to stop the pain. And so that's led us down this journey. And so what happened is I went back to work. I was like, I mean, it was a long process. She was in the hospital for a while. She was in inpatient facility. Like, it was a process. 2 weeks later, my friends at NBC reached out again and said, hey, nobody will talk. Will you reconsider? And I thought, oh, God, are you challenging me? Like, is this you saying, hey, you said you'd do anything? And I thought, if I'm terrified, Brandy's terrified. I served in the military. I've done hard things. I was on TV most of my career. What does a normal person feel like? And if not me, who? So I reluctantly did it. And I just said, if you're listening, and I'll say this to your audience too. If you're watching, if you're listening, stop what you're doing. Go check on your loved ones, your kid, your husband, your friends, and ask them point blank, are you feeling suicidal? Honest questions, get honest answers.
Wow, that's a word. I got to tell you about that. When we talk about suicide, it gets real personal. When I hear the word suicide, I hear names of people. I've been in situations, some don't know, but I lost my leg as a kid. They made me an amputee as a result of it at 11, and so I end up becoming a mentor to others to help them through it. And there are times where people have called on me as a last resort, and they assume that I'm going to be able to inspire this person out of it. And oftentimes I've felt that if I'm there, I can make a difference. But there's also, there's another side of the coin. There's been times where I've failed, and I took it personal. Let me tell you about my friend Pat. I get a phone call, and they say, hey, there's a guy who just tried to take his life. He shot himself. He took a ton of pills, then shot himself. He's outside, and it's record cold outside. And only thing that kept him alive was the record cold. But he got frostbite from being out there. So they get there, and they cannot put him to sleep to do the surgeries. They need to amputate because the frostbite is so bad. And so they had to do what's called guillotine. That is to take off his legs off of his body with him wide awake.
Ouch.
And so the pain, he was just enduring. So they cut, he screams. He cut, he screams. Family reaches out to me. Doctor reaches out to me. And I leave from my job and I come there to see him. But this guy's just writhing in pain because they can't give him anything for it because he's taken so many pills on his own. So they schedule for me to come back after he's adjusted some. The guy's dark room, curtains are closed, I let light in, I'm bringing in positivity, I'm speaking to him and all those things. Later, we get him to the point where he's willing to try. I get him on his feet, we go to his church, he stands up and he says how much better he is. People celebrated him. But in the quiet hours when I wasn't there, he made a different choice. And so he came and asked me, he called me up, says, can we have dinner together? And I was like, lunch? And I was like, yeah. So we go out to lunch. And I noticed, man, he's driving his old school car that he never drives. He's wearing a brand new outfit. And he says he's going to go visit his dad. And I said, man, that's awesome. And he said, it's been 30 years since I've seen my dad. And I was like, wow, that's great, man. You're going to go see him. But what I was too immature to know to look for signs. You see, he was saying goodbye. The meal with me was a gift he was trying to give me. Saying goodbye to his father was to close a gap there. I didn't know it. And so here was, I'm celebrating, talking about a future time and how much well he's doing, so it's giving me a false sense of celebration with him. And then he had romanticized this farewell. And let me tell you that when he was gone, when I got word that, I got word with him. Last minute he calls on Messenger on Facebook, and I got to see him go. And I sit there, and I thought, what did I not do? And then when I had to go and talk to his family and talk to his kids, you see, we romanticize that if I'm gone, no one would care, they won't be affected. If a man shoots himself with a bullet, he doesn't send it through himself, he sends it through his bloodline. He sends it through his friendships.
Right.
His life mattered. There isn't a day I don't think about, Pat, I'm responsible, I'm accountable. I'm fearful now when I'm talking to people to make sure that you're okay, that if you're down and you're telling me I may do something, now you've triggered, you've hit me, I need to know that you'll promise me you'll live.
Right.
Right?
That's become the mission, James, because we might think things are okay. We might feel okay. We might be talking to somebody right now. 3 people today, just today. Mm-hmm. One just lost her son. Mm-hmm. I almost lost somebody last week. Mm-hmm. There's so many people going through things we don't even understand. So what we've created from this whole tragedy, because I'm one of the lucky ones that got a second chance. When I said go ask the honest questions, here's what happened. Right after that story aired, I got a message from a dad, and he said, "You just saved my daughter's life."
Wow.
I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "I saw you on the news. I ran to go check on my daughter. She had already written a note. She was in the process of trying to end her life. We're at the hospital." Then I got another message from a family who said, "We saw your story. Thank you for being vulnerable. We talked to our 15-year-old son. He confessed he had a plan to end his life this weekend. We're getting help." That sent me on this big mission. If my personal story and call to action could save 2 out of, who knows, 15, 20, 30,000 people that saw it, what if we could reach 200,000?
Oh.
And so we created Promise to Live. It's promise, the number 2, live.org. Every 40 seconds, we lose somebody. That's ridiculous. And the numbers have gone up. In the same amount of time, we ask people to make a promise, everyone listening, whether or not you struggle. Promise that if you find yourself in that dark place, in 5 years from now, in 5 minutes from now, whenever it is, if you ever get to that place, the promise is, I'll reach out to a friend, a family member, a trusted resource like NAMI, AFSP, Jed, Trevor, Live On, or I'll call or text 988. 988's been out almost 2 years, and most people don't know about it. It's a 24/7 crisis line you can call or text.
988, right?
988. Yeah, anyone in the United States can call or text that. And we just want people to make the promise. It takes 25 seconds. The first promise is for you, whether or not you're struggling. The second one is share that on social media. The suicide rate has gone up 71% in youth 10 to 17 since 2010. That's ridiculous. So we got to share it, and we have to reach people where they are on the devices and platforms they use through the people they trust. I know with Absolute Motivation in your channel, you have 1.5 million people watching you all the time. You're getting views and views and views. And what if you tell those people, I need you guys to make me a promise? There's studies out there that say the power of a promise. If you make a promise to somebody, you're way more likely to keep it, up to 60%.
Wow.
And so if we can get people to make that promise, we're going to save lives. Then you share it. Talking like this, we're creating a safe space. Safe space to start conversations, and we'll save lives. So join us.
I Promise to Live is the organization. It's Promise to Live.
Yes.
The website is what?
Promise, the number 2, live.org. Promise to Live.
Not only should we all make that promise, it's a powerful thing. It's a commitment to something. It's a commitment that I'm accountable to you, that I'm here, that I'm living, and people need connections. I was thinking of this. This is how we connected. I told you the story of Pat. His loss made me go back and study of like what to look for. What did they do, you know? Different things, different people. But there are some commonalities. When people are openly saying, I'm going to take my life, when people are saying goodbye to you, or you know, when people are giving away their stuff, when people are going through those things, we need to surround them with love.
Yeah.
There is, in fact, the way that I met you is that I got a phone call. I was in Indiana, still living there, and I didn't even know this family well at the time. And they were like, our son is talking about taking his life. Would you talk to him? And I literally got on the phone, talked with him, and I asked him, make me the promise that you'll give me 24 hours to get to you. And then I flew in, got here, and that's how we actually met. And this was something not for public, it was private, but it was my commitment because of what happened with Pat. I don't want anyone to go through that. And every day, you help save lives. You're putting on things, you're doing things. You have things that are coming up. The events that you hold is to bring awareness, but awareness is to bring in revenue. Revenue is resources so that you can have more reach to touch lives. What are you doing with Promise to Live now? What's coming up? What are you working on?
Oh, gosh. It's so exciting, James. Da Vinci said it best. He says, I've been impressed with the urgency. I've been impressed with the sense of urgency. Knowing is not enough. We must apply. Being willing is not enough. We must do. So that's why I've taken this. I'm not an expert in all these things, but I have lived experience. So we've been gathering the doers and saying something's better than nothing. We can talk about it. So we have the Promise to Live campaign. We have our show September
Well,
10th.
what's the campaign?
So the campaign is to get everybody everywhere to make the promise to live and share the promise to live.
Okay.
That's the campaign. We're on a mission to get at least 100,000 promises made this year. Okay. We have our Pocket Hug project, which is a coin that says, when times are tough and you don't know what to do, here's a hug from me to you. It's got 988. So we're trying to work with 988 to get the resources out there.
And there was a goal that you had. I saw online.
We
5,000?
No. So we have a goal, the Pocket Hug coin. We want to give out 100,000 of these this year. We've already done, after this weekend, we have 5,000 going to Kevin Bacon this weekend for the 6 degrees. They're going to be putting these in their kits. So 5,000 of the Promise to Live Pocket Hugs, which has our website, which has vetted resources where people can find it. It has our shows that deliver hope, help, healing, and resource. We have your segment in there. And then it's got 988. And it's a constant reminder in your pocket, in your purse, in your wallet, on your Bing or in your car. You can rub it and feel it. And it's just a tangible reminder that somebody cared enough to give this to me.
Yeah.
And we're doing a campaign where we're only going to do them in 2 packs or more. No individuals, because anybody who gets a pocket hug, you make the promise to live, 1 to keep, 1 to give.
Oh, that's awesome.
We want you to give it out. So 100,000 of the pocket hugs, 100,000 letters we're writing, heartfelt, handwritten letters of love and affirmation. We want these to go out because some people have never heard a kind word.
Wow.
You know, they just need to hear it from someone. And so we're taking volunteers. We're doing writing groups. We're teaming up with companies.
There's something I want to key on that and pick up when you said, oh, wow, thank you. A promise to live. This is my pocket hug.
That's your pocket
I
hug.
receive it. Thank you. And I'm going to put this near my heart.
Keep it.
And I'm going to keep that promise to you and to others. I will promise to live and give all that I have to help others live. But there's something you had said about a word. You're writing words of affirmation, writing letters, talking with people. Mm-hmm. I know the word works. The reason why I know words work, because word is what God left us to know him. You cannot do this alone.
No.
And what empowered you was a promise that you gave to God. Say, God, I'm asking you of something for my daughter's sake. And God said to you, there won't be a third. And you took advantage of the moment. You said, I'm going to give my all. And then you put your pride aside and said, I'm going to open up and be vulnerable. Most people are afraid that people would see our flaws or errors, so it looks like my life isn't as good as it can be. I mean, you're a reporter. You can interview the president. You're supposed to project all that is good, all that is right, all that is together, and to be going through that crisis at home. And yet you allowed people in, and the truth is you didn't break the vow of perfection. What you did is you showed us that all of us are going through the human experience and we need help.
Yeah.
And that help was going to be available because it gave birth to this. So we have the campaign.
We have the
promises,
campaign.
We have the words of affirmation. What else?
So the show is September 10th. PromiseToLive.org. We're looking for influencers, celebrities, CEOs. Everyone can get involved. We can stream this on every platform. Imagine sharing this with everybody in your circle. Mm-hmm. You don't know who's suffering. So the show is, we bring singers, dancers, celebrities, speakers. James is going to be involved in the show. I'm so excited for that. We're doing it at the iconic Avalon Theater in Hollywood on Hollywood Boulevard. Wow. We'll have 500 in the live audience, but we're going to be streaming to millions, Dash Radio, a bunch of different groups. So I'm super pumped about that. We want everyone to watch it, share it, be involved. We do Silicon Slopes if you're in the state of Utah every month. And even if you're not, you can stream it. But we're getting together and we're bringing experts in. We're talking about coping. We had Richard Godfrey on Connections. We've got, CEOs, influencers, amazing folks talking about how to have the conversations, what to look for. And when you talk about signs and things to look for, people will ask me all the time, Brandy, what should I be looking for? We miss things all the time. A lot because we're distracted or on our phones or whatever. Don't look for signs. Have these conversations. Have the open, honest conversations and just ask people. There's studies too, I hope people know. If you ask somebody if they're feeling suicidal, you're not planting an idea. You're not making it worse. It's They
not
either are or
offending
they
them.
aren't.
Like,
Yeah.
are you like, no, if you're not good.
No, I've had
Yeah.
people ask me that, hey, you're dealing with so much, you're doing all this stuff. I'm like, I feel great. God sustains me. The power of a promise. I did make him a promise. I said I'd do whatever. I didn't expect him to make me work so hard, but here we are busting it, and we're getting amazing people involved who are helping us make this mission, because I'm part of a global grand challenge with a group called Stop Stigma Together. Globally, the biggest issue plaguing the planet is mental health, suicide, addiction, and trauma. And all these world leaders, doctors, and global politicians, and everybody coming together, scientists, they said, how do we fix this? And their answer was, we have to stop the stigma. If we stop the stigma, people will start the conversation. So things like this help. We're going to be launching a national TV show. Promise to Live, national weekly 30-minute TV show where we're bringing in experts. So anyone who wants to get involved in that, reach out.
That's wait a minute. I don't want to. You say things that are like, when you're watching basketball, you see Jordan do a dunk, they give an instant replay. When you drop bombs like that, I need you to do the replay. So tell them what it is. Again,
Yeah.
tell them about the show coming up, because what a thing from your car. That promise made, that prayer, from sitting there beside your daughter, to seeing her eyes open, to now you're opening eyeballs to see something totally different. Tell them about the show again.
I'm so thankful and grateful I have an opportunity, a second chance with my kid. I'll fight every day to make sure everyone has an opportunity with the people they love. So the show, it's amazing how things work, right? It was presented to me. Hey, we have an opportunity. Would you want to do a national TV show hitting 200 markets a week, promoting Promise to Live, bringing in the experts, bringing in survivors, bringing in celebrities? And so we're teaming up. I don't want to go into too many details because we're still working on it,
Well,
but we're
listen,
teaming up with celebrities.
the fact that you are working on something, I believe that the moment you started chasing your purpose there, I think that something unique has happened, Brandy. You may have started interviewing presidents at 20, but I believe God was crafting you from the day one for this cause. You see, who better than someone who would be television savvy, someone who can interview, someone who can speak? What made what makes us perfect for a cause is the crafting God does before we get to that cause. You were being hand-picked, selected, molded, and the trials that you had to go through to become you, and that was all in His plan. But that's why your faith is so important. There has to be a purpose to everyone's life. No one becomes a peak performer. No one becomes great just because if you rely on natural ability, it will be limited. That's why people have a prime. They were once great at something, and then after that, they're stuck in trying to fulfill a role, trying to play that role. It's always stuck trying to be Mr. T instead of being who you really were. Always caught in the character instead of just letting your character go. But when you find your purpose and your cause, man, God just keeps opening doors, and there it goes without pause. You just continue to go, and I'm so proud of you.
Well, thank you. I remember thinking that because we're in our third year on this campaign, and I'm happy to report that my daughter's graduating high school a year early.
There we go.
She's incredibly talented. She's stoked for college. She's looking at exchange programs overseas. And she said to me the other day, she goes, "Mom, I can't wait to get old.
Ooh.
I can't wait to be
There's a
40
win.
and 60. And it just hit me like a ton of bricks. I thought, wow, that's worth it all. Yeah. And when you talk about that, the first year was so hard. I can't even tell you. I always, as an overachiever and a peak performer, I never knew what my breaking point was. I was just like, I push. I can do it. I love challenges. I love pushing myself. And I told my husband, I never knew what my breaking point was. And then I found it. I said, I can't do one more thing. And I found myself curled up in the floor crying. They talk about the fetal position. It's a real thing. I was just like, why am I doing this? It's too hard. It's just too hard. I can't. And he goes, you know why you're doing it, Brandy. You know why. I have the passion. I made the promise. I have a purpose, and it's my profession. Nobody else could do what I'm doing the way it's being done. You're right. God did have to prime me into that and craft me into be the person, because I said nobody else. I want to give it to someone.
Yeah.
No one else can do
No,
it.
and the people don't want to do that. They don't want to commit. They don't know that there's sacrifice. But I also want to give a message to your daughter. You see, sometimes when we're the catalyst for some change in someone else, that people can sometimes look on us as we were the cause, as a negative. Now, I want to tell her that she's the Harriet Tubman in the story. She ignited something. She's our Rosa Parks in this moment. She's a life changer. That young lady is amazing.
She is.
I want you to make sure that you keep telling her that. She's a rock star.
And she knows that. I do. I'm like, I am so proud of you. Look at what we've done. That's what I tell her. Look at what we've done. We have saved lives. I've got countless people who said, I'm here because of the promise. I'm here because somebody checked in on me. I'm here because I found out about resources. I would have never in a million years thought that I would be the founder of this big initiative, that I would be doing Promise to Live, that it would become my passion and my purpose, my calling.
Yeah.
But I am a mom on a mission because I made a promise and I've been primed. And I know without a shadow of a doubt, I wake up every day with a sense of urgency because I know lives depend on it. And he sustains me to do the work, and he opens the door, and he brings amazing people to me.
I'm about to do something here. I'm going to just go off the heart. Do you give an away award for someone who does something towards the cause a year? Do you do that yet?
We did do an award last year where we wanted to recognize people making a big difference in mental health.
Okay, here's what I want to do. What's your daughter's first name?
Kaya.
So, what does her name mean? Where did you
Kaya
get that?
means diamond in the sky.
Wow. So here it is. The one thing, well, diamonds that reflect light. I will sponsor an award annually that you give. It's the Kaya. It's an award for someone who does extraordinary in the work, that gives to the work. I want her name to be remembered forever. I want people to have Kaya in their homes. I don't want it to be just general, here's an award. I want it because of the person. It's her story that began this. And it's her mom who loves her with everything, who carries the ball forward. And when it's time one day, that diamond will one day maybe take the mantle. But I want people to have her on their mantelpiece. And so,
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you for that.
No, I want to make a difference, and I want to be involved with changing lives. For every pat, and then there's those who take their lives, but then there's a family I want to tell you about. A lady I talked to today. She's a veteran, and her husband was a veteran, and he had a TBI, and he felt he overwhelmed, and he took his life, and he left her with kids that are small, in question marks of was she not enough. And so we were talking, and she's working her way through that. I'm going to connect you guys together.
Please.
Because I know that you can make an impact in her life. And she's just happened months ago.
Wow.
And she is really struggling. She's trying, and she's at the stage where people are like, yeah, he did that, but you still got to get yourself together. Time heals all things. And I want to say time does not. But
No.
God can change the way that it happens. If you're wounded, it takes time for a wound to heal. And even after it heals, there's a scarring. But the scarring can become a trophy where you can say, this represents the moment when God changed my life. It's where he said, it's your second chance. And so I make the promise to live.
I love it.
There's someone that needs a word from you. And so let's bring it back to the message you give to someone who is struggling. Would you just take a moment and tell them why they need to make that promise?
It's because we need you here. The world is not better without you. You are not alone. Even if you feel alone, there are people who love you. If we can hate for any reason, we can love for any reason. I love you. I know people love you. It might feel heavy right now, but when you let people pick up an edge and lighten the load, it becomes bearable. And so don't give up. Don't give in. Fight through that moment of pain and find a purpose. Reach out. Make the promise right now to just reach out to a friend or a family member or call or text 988 or one of us. Find purpose. When you find your purpose, when you find meaning in your life, it gives you so much more reason to live. And so we want you here. And I know, like, we do feel alone. We feel like a burden. You're not a burden.
No.
You're loved. You might not feel it, but you are loved infinitely. And there's a Father who loves you, and he sent people like us to be here and to support you. So if you're feeling that way, join our cause. We want you. Reach out, message us, get on board, help save lives. Who can help more than somebody with lived experience when you know the pain? When I sat with these guys from Red Barn last night, the most beautiful letters of hope that I have ever heard in my life, because they've been through it. They've been in the darkness and the depths of despair. They know what it feels like to want to die. They don't know how to live, and they're finding out how to live. And these guys say it. I finally found a reason and a purpose. And I promise you, if you haven't found your reason or your purpose, don't give up yet. We'll help you. You'll find it. There's always a reason. I'm so thankful for the life I have, James. I'm thankful for opportunities I have to meet and to connect with people. And it really is like a huge, huge blessing. Our big thing, too, is sometimes we don't know where to go. We don't know who to talk to. I didn't know, and I taught suicide prevention. Part of my mission with Promise to Live is to create a community of collaboration, knock down the silos, come together and say, when it comes to saving lives, there's no competition. What are the resources available? What tools are working? We're learning about so many things.
Yeah.
So if you've got information, if you've got resources and tools, please connect with us.
I love your heart for that. And that's why I was saying, with all that you take on and all the hearts that you're loving on, I want you to continue to make sure you take care of the caregiver herself, because you are too needed. I can't allow you to get overwhelmed, burdened, or burned out, or to feel like you're overwhelmed. I want you to know that you make a difference. Today you did. Tomorrow you will. It is who you are. It's who you're called to be. But every once in a while, make sure you recharge your battery so you can stay at peak.
I appreciate that. I will. And I've got great people who are volunteering, but we always need more great people. And I stood there last night and I listened to these men share these vulnerable messages of hope. I was overwhelmed and tears, and there were tears, all these strong people. That's my payment. That's when I feel this peace, and I know that all the hard work is worth it. When you know you're making a difference and you can see it right there, and they said, this is the best thing we've had in the years we've been here. It's like, that's what it's about, right? Like I went home last night on cloud nine, and I told Adam, my husband, I said, this is what it's all about. This is why I do it. This is my payment. It's God's way of saying, here you go, Brandy. Thank you. Keep up the good work. And he gives me this return that you can't put a price on. You haven't lived till you've done something for somebody they can never repay.
That's where we go. You need to live, because there's something inside of you that you can give to someone else. When we were talking about making a promise to live, there's potential, there's a gift, there's a talent in you that no one else can duplicate. I don't care if you have an identical twin and everything else is the same. God still has a separate plan for you. If you want to get a peek into what you can be, look in the mirror and begin to speak affirmations. I am worth living. I am gifted. I am called. I am talented. I am able to overcome whatever comes my way. Whatever you do, make the promise to live. Thank you for tuning in to Peak Performers.